So today's trip is going to be from, I'm probably going to get this wrong, Drumnadrochit to Oban. We're going to be taking the scenic route as ever. Bit of a windy trip. We initially headed back northwest the way we came, but I've set off. We're going to go down Glen and then join onto the A831. But unfortunately, I'm going to get us a little bit lost, which is just before this section. We ended up going all the way around the Glen and coming back on ourselves. I lost around about 30 minutes or so, but you know, it doesn't matter. You see the temperatures are already starting to rise. They're going to be in the medium 20s by lunchtime and through the afternoon. It did get really warm. But there, we're going to go from the 831 down the 835, so big circle up and around, heading back towards Loch Ness, which we've already passed, and then we're going to jump onto the A87. I'm not exactly sure what the Glen's called, but it's Lochawe. Another very bad pronunciation, most likely. And then going to go via the Beauly and then A82 down to Oban, which would be a first for me. I've never been to Oban before. It's about 230 miles in total, which is a little bit more than some of the days that we've done, certainly earlier on, but I'm not expecting it to be a particularly long day. The roads are relatively fast, they're flat, they're quite wide, so the weather's nice and there's really good visibility, so we haven't needed to start early, and I expect us to be there late afternoon with the usual stops. There's no need to rush these things. We'll stop as many times as we need, especially in the heat, to keep hydrated. So like I say, it was already warm as we set off this morning, so thermals are out, vents are open, and summer gloves are on. So we'll see how we go. Been noticeable to me. Processing these videos an awful lot later than what I'd originally hoped, that because I had no way of really viewing the video at the time I was taking it, some of the days of the helmet cam, you can see that they're not actually horizontal, so we've got a slight lean on. Most irritating. We're going to have to figure that one out going forward, so we iron that problem out. I know it's a drift camera, so I've got two. One was the 4K, which is on the Tiger, and my bro's got the one on the GS, which is only a 1080. So you can see the difference when I cut between the two different cameras in upscaling one to 2.7K and the other one from 4K down. So sort that out for the next set of videos. I'll do everything at 2.7 and then we should be fine. So this stretches the A831. As usual, 3 numbers mean that it's just basically a bit of a slightly wider B road as we would be used to in the UK. It's a combination of Moriston open road as it goes along the side of the Glen, along the side of the river. But it was a really nice start to the day. There's nothing challenging about it. It was nice and relaxing, super easy bends and great visibility. It was just a really nice start to a day, so I was pretty much enjoying it. So we're going to head along here for a while, and then we're going to go through Beauly and then pick up the A35. I hadn't really worked out where we're going to stop, so we'll just see how we feel after a morning's riding. We'll stop on demand, although typically that ends up being a bit of a problem in Scotland. We'll find some. We'll start thinking about finding somewhere, and then we'll think, well, we'll stop at the next one, and then there isn't one for ages. So it's a bit of a lesson learned. You think I'd learned after all these years of going to Scotland that we need to pull over when we're ready to pull over, when it's convenient, rather than keep putting it off, because you might be waiting then for a much longer time to find somewhere suitable. So some people have mentioned to me before, and I kind of noticed, but I hadn't really registered it, that quite a lot of the roads that we have, if you look either side, you'll notice that the railway track runs very, very, very close to the side of the road, which, when you think about it, is going to make an awful lot of sense. There's a stretch here where the train tracks run parallel. You can see it just here where they run parallel. Obviously, if they're making major roads, some of the roads were carved out, I'd imagine, late 1800s and that. The military roads, they're probably going to take the straightest, flattest path. That's most likely going to coincide later on in the century when start surveying for train tracks. Obviously, you're going to want to have as little change in the incline, whether up or down, so it makes sense that you're going to run alongside it. If you remember on the video where we went to Mallock, most of that road ran along exactly the same path as the train tracks. Makes sense, it's flat, it's going to be nicer. So first coffee stop for the day, we ended up stopping at a place called the Midge Caff, a small little place, very aptly named. The moment we pulled up, clouds of midges descended. Well, not clouds, but certainly many more midges than we used to this time of year. Normally we'll only get a couple if any, but yeah, they were out in force. Luckily the place was selling smidge, which is something that anybody who's been to Scotland during the midge season will be well aware of what it is. It's probably the best midge repellent. Stupidly, I hadn't bought along because I hadn't had any problems with midges on the Maybank holiday for well, maybe 10-15 years, but they're out in force this year. It was really bad in certain places, so bought some midge, but found out from one of the locals that something called Avon So Soft, which you'd think from his name sounds like some form of moisturiser, that is also exceptionally good at repelling midges, plus on the upside I gather it will moisturise. So I have to get some for the next trip and give that a try. So yeah, coffee and cake as usual. Exceptionally good coffee, as I remember. Had a very good selection, and an exceptionally good cake, which you can never say no to a nice piece of cake. So after that, going to jump back on the road and we'll be heading down the A890 towards Lochawe, Strathcarron area, which we'd already been up earlier on in the trip, but we're passing it back in the other direction, and we're going to be heading towards that in order to get onto the A87 and then take a bit of a loop around to get back on track. just particularly nice stretch of bends. Just left, right, left, right, left, right, as you'd expect. Just so relaxing and most enjoyable to see. So couldn't resist just putting these in. On an interesting stretch of the A82. Can't quite remember doing this in years past, but obviously I must have been on this multiple times. Maybe just been in the opposite direction, but to cloud it over a little bit, which is one to do from Glen to Glen and time to time in Scotland. So although it was still really, really warm, it was probably just a little bit more comfy on the travelling on the bike. But as you see, it opened out into some really nice forest, which has been a bit of a theme just recently. I've really enjoyed the forest sections. A bit of greenery, nobody can say no, but yeah, I do enjoy a nice forest, so twisting our way through the forest was really rather pleasant. So continuing on the trend here of having nice forests either side of the road, frames the picture really well. To me, it's a lovely contrast to the barrenness we get of some of the moors. With the weather being nice beforehand, obviously it been raining, everywhere felt really, really green and luxurious. So yeah, it really framed things rather nice, and I do enjoy, as I've said before, going through a bit of a forest stretch. So we're back on the A890 heading down towards Strathcarron. We'd approached us previously from the direction. Again, as you can see from the roads, exceptionally quiet. It was kind of bizarre this year. Normally we see quite a lot of bikes, certainly on the main stretches, and really hadn't seen anything. Trip is usually punctuated by struggling to get past some of the either the caravans or the touring vans that we see up ahead, but again, really few this year, very far between, so wasn't too much of a problem. So you can easily squirt past, especially with the power of the Tiger. So roads are nice and open, plenty of visibility, so it's not a problem at all. Again, just had to put another section of the 890 in. With it being such a pleasant day, the views were exceptionally nice. It was just a really nice and pleasant road, nothing stressed about it, not massively twisty, not needing to do any stupid speeds. There's no traffic on the road, as you can see. I'm rarely seeing anything in front of me having to do any overtakes at all, so it's just really relaxing. It got spectacular view down the Glen, which over in previous years the visibility has not been particularly good. I know we're getting a bit of for once actually past another motorcyclist there. We've not seen many at all. Seen an awful lot more people on push bikes, which, you know, you've got to give them credit. That's hard work, that is. now just going to take a left here. Going to jump back onto the A87, which is going to take us down towards Invergarry, but we're going to go the full length of the Glen, which I'm not entirely sure what the name of the Glen is. As I say, it's got Loch Cluny or Cluny, I don't know. We'll just call it that. Stopped there a few times. Massively expensive, overpriced, and very tourist trappy that's at the centre of this. So we're not actually going to stop at this, but this section here is more about just how the views open up from the start. As you can see here, it is a really picturesque glen with mountains on one side as we work our way through it. So the plan is, after this, we're going to go down the A87 and we're going to stop for lunch at a place called the Seven Wells Caff, which is alongside the loch just after Invergarry, which is at the end of this rather long road. It's quite a long stretch on the bikes, to be fair, but that was the plan, and as it turned out to be obviously a lot warmer day than when I was planning it back in winter. We ended up having to take just a few quick breaks in lay-bys, just to get a bit of shade, stretch your legs and have a drink. More about the heat than needing to stretch our legs. I find the Tiger super comfy. 1, 2, 3 hours it stretches is no problem at all. It's tall enough to be able to stand up, stretch your legs, and the arm position is super comfy, and it's really easy to ride, so it doesn't buffet you wind-wise. There's plenty of protection, so which is a really nice touring bike. But obviously in the heat it's more important to make sure that you're staying hydrated. It's very easy to miss the fact that you're sweating a lot with it being so warm, especially being as if you've got vents and you're opening your jacket, you feel like you're staying reasonably cool when you're moving, so you don't realise you're hydrating. I'm lucky in this respect. I've got a Klim hydration pack on, so I'm able to stay hydrated, but we had a couple of people with me, so it's important to stop, to ensure that we took a stop, stretch our legs, make sure that they have a bit of water and have a bit of a walk around. So we'd already had I think we'd had a couple of stops actually at the end of the A87 just before Invergarry, and then we stopped at where we'd planned to take lunch, which was, as I said earlier on, at the Seven Wells. Pulled up and went for a look. There was quite a bit of traffic around in the lay-bys, but turns out the place was shut, which was rather sad to see, which had been a bit of a not a problem, but it had been noticeable that places that I'd used in the past to stop when I planned the trip were no longer open, which was really unfortunate. I gather that COVID has obviously taken its toll on some of the less frequented and more dependent tourist places, but it carried on, knowing Speen Bridge was just down the road, and there's a new to me, the Bridge Caff there, so we stopped there for lunch. And again, with it being so hot, we sat inside because all the outside seats were taken. It's really busy actually. I think we were slightly late afternoon, 1:30, 2 o'clock, so a little bit late for lunch, but yeah, a couple of cups of tea and got back on track. It was really good. So lunch has been had. We've taken quite a long break actually to keep ourselves nice and relaxed in Speenbridge, because to be fair it wasn't going to be far. The next section was from Speenbridge, this section here up the A82 up Glencoe. We tend to have a habit in the past to come down Glencoe, so we're now going up. Can't say too much about the weather, as you can see from the pictures. Absolutely spectacular, but it allows us to capture how really colourful and how big and vast the Glen is. Not entirely sure that the people with me have seen it before in this light. Usually it's a little bit overcast, so you don't get the range of visibility that you get here, and obviously the colours are spectacular. But yeah, you can see a bit more traffic, and the traffic gets progressively slower and thicker as we get to the main section of the Glen. So I've cut some of that out, but really nice. Yeah, as we're now in the main section of the Great Glen, you can see there's an awful lot more traffic. It's slowed down, understandable. People are rubbernecking because it is really spectacular. But to be fair, we just, whilst it is really nice, I want to get through it. Want to get to the Green Valley, take another break there, stop, and then we've just got a really chill ride down the A82 down to Oban. Road I've not been on before, so it'll be interesting to see what that's like. It doesn't look like it's going to be particularly challenging, but it should be great. So here we are, arrived at Oban. Nice trip down the A82. Perfect road for early afternoon. Had a long day-ish. Downhill, obviously, because we're headed towards the sea, so from the mountains, so we're bound to be going downhill. But felt really easy. Nice, gentle bends. Super relaxing and chill. Nothing technical or strenuous. Just really nice. End to the day, really, in that respect. Typical. Get into Oban and gone the long way round. The only benefit to that was that got to have a look round Oban itself. So heading down past the seafront, anybody that's been to Oban will know that it's a really good centre. It's got everything you need. We're staying right down on the front. In a hotel, well, it's a guest house actually, and it has a pub underneath it that does food, so it was actually a perfect base for a couple of days, which is what we stayed here for 2 days. Weather's gorgeous, as you can see, once we pull up outside, we got people sat outside. It was a really, really nice place to stay. As you can see from the weather, we had a couple of good days here. So the next video will be of the 2 trips that we did, because we're planning to go to the Isle of Mull tomorrow, which taking ferry, and then we're going to go the long way round and then come back via Fort William. So really long day in that respect. So staying close to the ferry is pretty handy. So we're early start tomorrow morning for an 8 AM ferry.